You are, all of you, you see, living in the theater of ego, the egoic world, the world of perception, the world of the presumed body-mind, the world of being a named separate self. In a world drama, all kinds of things seem to be necessary. Everybody is supposed to be heading toward some sort of something or other that's going on that has to do with consuming and doing and achieving, and we're all together moving toward some. What is that exactly? The program is on. It's not very clear exactly what it is, but everybody is supposed to be really committed to it. Somehow, you're all supposed to be really committed to being alive and succeeding at whatever it is everybody is supposed to be succeeding at here. It's not quite clear exactly what that is, but that's what motivates you all. You're all supposedly involved in some endeavor that has to do with life in the world, that you are obliged and driven to fulfill. It may be completely imaginary, total nonsense. Well, it is completely imaginary. And total nonsense fundamentally, apart from what one would do simply because the body's apparently alive and others are alive and compassionate gestures are inevitable, or should be. But the program? What exactly is the program that must be fulfilled here? You are all mankind, and you are here to achieve the ability to go to other planets? Is that what you're all doing here? You're all here to conquer matter, achieve victory over matter, over the material universe. Together you're going to do this? And so on. Yes, it is something like that. Some ridiculous purpose like that is what you're all somehow or other involved in, isn't it? You see, it's a collective theater. You may not know exactly what the seeds of every chapter are, but you all are, you get up every day into the waking world, and you're part of a collective theater of driven existence to achieve various kinds of purposes, which are part of a grand collective effort that everybody is making, that civilization, global civilization, somehow or other is supposed to achieve. Of course, these are the kinds of things that you all entertain here in America, and where most devotees are at this hour, where, yes, life is difficult, but there is a certain kind of civilized, comfortable order of things happening. There's about 6 billion human beings supposedly on the earth at the moment, and about 3 billion of them are living in abject poverty and utter despair. They don't have any program. They hear about it a bit. They might like to be part of that. But it's hard to do that on less than $1 a day and with a life expectancy of a few years. And about half of the human population is living in those conditions. So those of you who feel you're part of this collective grand civilization purpose, you see, are actors in a theatrical drama that is being participated in only by a portion of those who are of the human species. In fact, the other half that doesn't participate in that are, in many cases, in that position as an effect of what the other half, you all, are doing in order to exercise your illusion of ultimate fulfillment. The haves manufacture the have-nots in some fashion. You couldn't have your relatively affordable luxury whatever something if somebody working for $1 a day didn't make it for you. If somebody making your salary had to make it, you couldn't afford it. So you have to have half of the population living in a dreadful circumstance so that the other half can play out this imagined destiny of self-fulfillment. You're crazy. And I've just returned here after a bit of time, and immediately, of course, I didn't even have to do it. The TV was already on when I came into the house. I just find it amazing to look at the public theater, the TV. What's on television? I'm sure you all see it. But what is reflected through your TV preoccupations is you, your civilization, your collectivity. It's your image of yourselves, it's what you want to be, it's what you have become, it's what you unfortunately are, it's what you also don't like. So a lot of people complain about what's on television, of course. And a lot of people live very different lives than what's shown on television, too. They maybe don't even bother to watch television. But generally speaking, people do, and they're reflected there, and they find something about it to like, it seems. You're willing to buy those products in which they've found the seed, by which to do the appropriate repetitions that make you go out and buy stuff. If you didn't do that, they would have to change their act. So. It's been said that the basic purpose of television now, it's all corporately owned and controlled, and it's to bring audiences to corporations. It's not so much to bring something to audiences that audiences want as it is about bringing audiences to corporations that want to sell them something. Apart from all of that, it could be said critically about it, you live in a daily life that's about being part of this collective human theater of endeavor, as if there's some necessity to it. But you see, television is not in the business of truth or awakening people to truth. It's about perpetuating the mummery in which people are bound, and bringing people into conformity to collective purposes that are not even necessarily their purposes, but the purposes of some overwhelming, demanding force, socially or politically or somehow extended into the human world. So each of you is fulfilling moment-to-moment purposes associated with being a mummer, whether you know the seed of the current chapter or not. You play your life by ear in some sense. You also play it by rote. You do a lot of things repetitively. But you're just going along with this. Well, devotion to me, the sadhana of this way of life, is not about going along with this. You have to notice and choose your way out of it. I have given you the opportunity, but you must choose me. And then you will make choices altogether that correspond to your turning to me, your recognition of me, correspond to my instruction, the purpose of realization that is the relationship to me. Does this transcend all other obligations? In fundamental terms, it does. It also, however, can coincide with the fulfillment of various life obligations. It's not something absolutely contrary to reasonable human purposes and compassionate acts of life. Not at all. So you have family relations in India who would hope you or expect you to do certain things. Well, you can various reasons of compassion, love, concern be of help to your family as my devotee. If you have to renounce your relationship to me and the purpose of realization in order to do it, you'd probably better think about it a little harder and come to some kind of arrangement that doesn't require you to do that. But then there's also a lot of other commitments or presumed obligations or tendencies only that you are fulfilling and using up a lot of your time and energy and life doing, that you could just as well forget about completely, and it would do no one any harm at all. But it would reacquire much time and space and energy and attention for right life, right practice, profundity of existence, without having to merely submit to the game of mummers going to their death. Whatever collectives of human beings imagine they're going toward, they are going toward death. You're living an animal lifespan, not a great event, but just that, poor event. And anything you're doing in the midst of this collectivity is just stimulating you to have it be more amusing, perhaps, or maybe a lot less amusing, depending how things turn out at any moment, but more amusing than simply a lowly, brief animal existence. But if you devote your whole life to that, you make a whole culture out of it, you will forget the truth. You will not realize the truth. Realization requires sadhana, not merely an argument. I can't merely tell you, no matter what arises, you are the witness, and have that be realization for you. My saying that might coincide with realization in the case of some extraordinary, unique, apparent individual, like me. But apart from such a unique coincidence with someone, for whom such an utterance would coincide also with my blessing and with just a unique coincidence, capability, apart from such a person, there must be a lifetime of sadhana preceding perfect practice and then ultimate realization. Because the Shakti, the pranas, the energies of body-mind, the motive of attention, is moving habitually by patterns, many of which are self-caused, many of which come from coincidence with the apparent world of nature and with collectives of human beings. The self-contraction is operative moment to moment in the waking and dreaming states. And the pranas emerge from deep sleep. They do not disappear by going to sleep. So going to sleep, even though it coincides with freedom from bondage, still rests in the bed of pranas. The causal body of potential, structure of dreaming and waking. Only sadhana undoes the pranas of bondage. The sadhana that coincides with spiritual blessing, profoundest devotion, real transmission, real tapas, profound practice, endurance of often intense difficulties. Going beyond self, becoming a self-ruin in the course of practice. Until by uncommandable grace there is revelation that is undeniable and absolute, and which could never have been thought before. There are various yogic indicators I have described to you all in my teaching. These are matters of extraordinary profundity, sometimes relatively easy for me to put into phrases that seem to be making sense, but often devotees in their imitativeness and self-possession seem to think they are actually involved in those same profundities. And they are not. So the perfect practice of this way rests upon profundities that are inconceivable and that require the profoundest sadhana in advance. A devotional sadhana, a sadhana of self-discipline, a sadhana that becomes true hearing, true seeing, a sadhana that becomes true surrender, searchless beholding of me, utter receptivity to my real self-transmission, such that the spiritual condition that is the enabling of the perfect practice is established by grace, not by mere argument. And then all the course that follows of the perfect practice into the seventh stage of life and its ultimate demonstration occurs through a course of profundities that truly are beyond description. But I have found some means, some language to indicate it to you. I'm not conveying it to you by those indications. The conveyance is through transmission in the midst of sadhana. So the pranas, the energies, the patterns of body-mind, of attention, must be loosed. The devotional and life discipline in which all of that is loosed involves the fulfillment of my instructions in various forms that cover all the aspects of life. It includes doings in the plane of social interactions, social connections, family relations, intimate relations, and so on. And what is precisely right about every kind of turn of decisions that have to be made requires an ordeal of consideration, often. And perhaps the asking of a question sometimes. But the questions that my devotee should ask me should be informed by examining my word altogether first, and living in accordance with my word first. And then if there's some peculiarity, some puzzlement, something that requires instruction, and you are willing to do what I say, then you ask me. But that asking is always in the midst of the ordeal of that right practice and that right consideration of all the aspects of what pertains to that matter of decision or discipline. And sometimes the asking of the question doesn't require a circumstance such as this, for instance. Perhaps it just requires more intensive study of my word, or examining my word with some others, other devotees with whom you can consult and so on. Or it may involve the prayer of changes simply in communion with me. Or it may involve just going to the hall, sitting with me, invoking me, and just leave it to me. And wait for the guidance.